folks, well this is different. I'm doing a discussion while uploading something. So yeah, it's kind of just one thing after another today. We had a snowstorm and some other things, so just doing some quick discussions on things and responding to things people are talking about. Apologies if you can hear old Clunky in the background who is out there somewhere. I couldn't decide whether I wanted the furnace on or off while recording. I tried turning it off to make things quieter, but then started getting a little nippy-nosed, so to speak, if you know what I mean, when things start getting chilly in here. I gotta find out where some of these drafts are coming from and fix that at some point. Problem is, the weather stripping I've been applying hasn't been sticking very well because I didn't apply it when it was at least 65 degrees out. Boo! So anyways. So I do think that you could officially doubt my audio-visual street cred if I never uploaded a video on this channel about the Loudness War. Yeah, Stoudman actually referenced this in his response to, well, I don't know if he meant to or not, but he referenced this in his response to my discussion about the audio woo-woo and analog stuff and things being good enough, which is, of course, the driving force behind people that were stuck with analog at some point in their lives, whether it was cassette tapes or vinyl records or VHS or anything of that sort, is that, yeah, if you're stuck with an inferior medium, you want to try and close the gap as much as possible and make things good enough. But it's not always that you're stuck with an inferior medium, it's that sometimes you want to use it because it's convenient. Like MP3s, for example. Go back and listen to my discussion on that. This is probably, again, going to be simpler rather than shorter for tonight's discussion. But what are you going to do? Anyways, I also turned the boob light back on so we can get some more light going. Unfortunately, it's going to highlight my antennas that used to be hair. It's creeping decrepitude. What are you going to do? I mean, I'm not going to be like these age-denying celebrities out there that desperately try to, you know, look way younger than they actually are, and it doesn't work out too well. So anyways, yeah, let's take the loafers off so I can actually move the chair around. This is almost as wacky as that time I did the vlog on the exercise ball, which I need to reinflate at some point and maybe use that as an alternative to this. But this is a much lighter chair and it moves much, much easier, so yeah! Okay, enough playing with the chair. Now I'm in the chair. Whatever. Alright, now I'm not going to do any kind of demonstration about the Loudness War. There are tons of videos out there that adequately demonstrate this problem. What I want to do is kind of throw in my 2 cents on the whole Loudness War matter and its relation to people's unfortunate belief in audio woo-woo and other sorts of rubbish like that. So, but we will at least define what the heck we're talking about here for those of you that may be new to this topic. The Loudness War is a term that is used to describe what people have been doing to recordings that are re-released in greatest hits or remastered or whatever forms, as well as new songs that are coming out. Okay, my feet are cold. Put the loafers back on. It's 20 degrees out. It's not like those days when it was hovering around the freezing point out there. Yeah, whatever. The Loudness War is a term that is used to describe how music producers and folks making like greatest hits or digital remasters of music tracks try to make the tracks louder and make things as loud as possible, because unfortunately among the mainstream crowd out there that doesn't really know about soundstage or representing all the frequencies properly in their audio setups, or the people that might actually think Bose Acoustimass or Bose wave radios actually sound good, when in reality they're just louder. They get louder with more frequencies, but they don't really represent them the way that they should, especially Bose Acoustimass. I hope nobody's still buying those things. There was a nice article about them about like last decade that I read when I was in college. I was like, yeah, Bose Acoustimass, baby, because my college blew some money. My college blew $1,300 on a 2.1 audio system that my refurbished Klipsch 4.1s could blow away, both in terms of volume and in terms of sound quality. However, Bose is like the Apple Macintosh sometimes. Hyped up, has a following that likes it even if they don't understand why they like it. And those folks like us who know a few things about electronics stay far away for darn good reason, but we get stuck explaining ourselves when people who read about these, oh look, Bose Wave Radio in like Salon some flimmy magazine somewhere or something like that. Oh my goodness, the Bose Wave Radio sounds really good. Echo chambers, aren't they something? But yeah. Yes. But anyways, Bose is a completely different discussion altogether. The point is, there's a lot of people out there that think that the main component of good sound is simply when things are loud. I used to clash with the people I went to school with all the time on this, because my definition of good sound is way more objective. It's every frequency being properly represented by the equipment, regardless of how loud it is. From the subwoofer down at the bottom, all the way up to tweeters. Yeah, tweeters. I almost said Twitter. I was like, what? Yeah, been in the social media days too long. Tweeters, way up at the top. Although some of us, as we get older, our ability to hear higher frequencies drops, so that doesn't matter as much later in life. But regardless, I want to have a good sound system that properly represents the frequencies, even if it doesn't shake the neighborhood. That's been the difference between myself and some of the ridiculously desperate bass setups the folks I went to school with used to make all the time. Probably the single most desperate example that I know of. There's a guy I went to school with. He took a truck speaker, like a subwoofer that you'd put in the back of a truck, and he took a cardboard tube from some construction materials. He bolted the speaker to it and like put something over the other end and called it a bass tube. When all he really did was like, it's like a ginormous toilet paper roll with a subwoofer on the end. That's basically what he had. And it was a bass tube. I can't bash these guys too much though, because when I was in college and living on a shoestring budget, my very first subwoofer was a Cyber Acoustics piece of crap Kmart special. And basically it was a 4-inch woofer inside an echoey wooden box. AV101, you do not have a subwoofer with a 4-inch speaker in an echoey box. Subwoofers are always at least 8 inches, for reasons I can explain at some point later on. But anyways, so because the piece of crap Cyber Acoustics garbage that I picked up from Kmart for 30 bucks wasn't bassy enough, I took the subwoofer and put it inside my desk drawer in my dorm room, the big one on the bottom, because it was a big echoey wooden box. So that was what I called bass back then. It's horrible. But the underlying problem with this is that there's this idea floating around out there that making something louder automatically makes it better, and that's not the case whatsoever. You can crank up the volume all you want, but it doesn't mean that what you're listening to is a faithful reproduction of what was recorded. So if you're listening to a live album, if I crank it up to where it's really loud, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a faithful reproduction of what the experience was like to hear all the instruments on a sound stage and stuff like that, or to get the sound stage correct so it feels like you're back at the show again. Now, yeah, some concerts just jump the volume and destroy your hearing anyways, but yeah, but same thing with the studio stuff too, with the artistic effect that the musicians were going for when you're listening to a studio album. Now, where you run into the loudness war is with people who are into things like classic rock and stuff like that. They'll remember like some 80s or something like that with a big driving drum beat. But they listen to some kind of greatest hits or digitally remastered version, and all the other instruments have been cranked up so that the drums are barely louder than the rest of the instruments. Now, today's iTunes generation, or a generation that grew up listening to the radio a little too much, may think that's good sounding music just because it's louder. Hence the loudness war. Now, the original artist might actually have a problem with that, and I think there have been situations where the recording artist actually threw a fit. What have you done to my music? And stuff like that. But that's the problem. This is an ad populum piece of audio-visual woo-woo that people unfortunately believe because, well, what's popular isn't always right, but not everybody operates that way. There's too many people out there that think that louder is always better. And that's just not the case. What if you want to have a boom, 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 boom driving drum beat in your song? You would not turn up the other instruments anywhere near that if you want to be a doof, 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 doof. But no. Is there some kind of emote where somebody does this? Yeah, rock, paper, scissors. Like I'm playing a big game of rock, paper, scissors. Doof, 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 shoot! It's like I'm playing rock, paper, scissors here. It's like, this seems kind of familiar. I'm looking at the preview there. I'm like, 1, 2, 3, shoot! But anyways, yeah, so that's the unfortunate part, is that there are recordings now that out there that people are not going to experience the same way the original audience experienced it, because people want to just jack the volume. Because people think that louder is always better, and that's not the case. Especially when you start talking about dynamic range. So let's say you listen to an old piece of classical music. Now, a little bit of trivia for you folks. A piano is actually a short version of what that instrument's full name is. The full name of a piano is a pianoforte, which is, it stands for soft, loud, because the piano, unlike its ancestor the harpsichord, could play at varying volumes. So much like a symphony orchestra, which can peter along for one part of a piece and then thunder for the rest of it, you can do the same thing with a piano versus its harpsichord ancestors. Play it softly and la 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 la, like that. And that's the kind of thing that has gotten lost with the whole Loudness War thing, because there's so many people out there who think that louder is always better. You lose the kind of changes in volume and whatnot that maybe the artists wanted to have in their piece of music, whether it's classical or top 40 or what have you. And this is basically artistic expression that's getting lost because of a lie, so to speak, an ad populum fallacious lie, logical fallacy gone run amok, that louder is always better, and that is not the case whatsoever. One of the things that contributes to this, unfortunately, is terrestrial broadcast radio, which has traditionally processed the living crap out of their... What the heck? Is it too dry in here? Oh yeah, it is getting too dry. Put the humidifier on. Like, why am I going to Oh, cool, the video's done too. Alright, let's jack the humidifier all the way up. This water is like 4 days old anyways. It's just been really... let's turn on the mana potion humidifier here, so hopefully I can stop popping and, you know. So, radio has been processing the heck out of its audio for a long time. And the reason why they do that is because you want listeners, basically. You want to process the living crap out of your radio broadcast, so no matter how crappy the radio is on the other end, people can still listen to your station. Whether you're talking into a microphone, or you're playing the top hits or something like that, or you're doing a talk show, whether somebody has a big hi-fi system or they're listening through some crappy alarm clock radio they got in their room, or maybe it's a horrible PA in a doctor's office or something with terrible paper speakers, one speaker, or maybe you have the absolute worst that I can think of off the top of my head, a horrendous garbled up PA system that is one channel mono. I swear, when I walk through Walmart and I hear classic rock songs that don't sound right because it's one channel mono, I just want to go up to that store manager and be like, dude, that is bothering the heck out of me. Why can't you hook up your PA the right way with mixed channel mono so we can at least have it somewhat sound like what the song really sounds like? So, but that's the thing. No matter how crappy the sound system, the radio broadcasters always want you to be able to tune in and listen and not like change the station because I can't hear that guy or that sounds like crap. Same thing too with bad reception, especially over regular radio that's not digital. So you get fuzz and stuff like that. So you want to kind of power through the fuzz, so to speak. Just boom, 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 get through to your listeners' ears. So no matter how crappy of a reception or a radio setup they have, they can at least catch the main elements of what you're doing. Most of your sound signal for your music and most of your dialogue for your on-air talent and stuff like that. So that's the thing. And now, because radio processes the crap out of everything it broadcasts, And I think some online folks are doing this too because it sounds more radio-like if I do that. People have this idea that processed to hell audio sounds good just because it's louder. It's run through limiters and things like that make it as loud as possible without distorting. And if that's not what, say, such and such rock band that you're listening to wanted to have when they recorded their music song, then what are you going to do? I mean, you're not listening to what the artist recorded for you. You're listening to what people have processed it through because of things related to broadcast radio and stuff like that. Or simply the idea floating around out there that louder is always better when it comes to sound quality, and that is absolutely not the case. In my case, my choice of audio equipment has reflected that drastically. When I was in college, there was a showdown between high-end computer speakers between Klipsch Pro Medias and the Logitech Z series. A lot of Klipsch fans called it Loudtech. Today, I still have the satellites from my last Klipsch system that I picked up in 2005, the Pro Media 5.1 Ultra redesign, the Ultra 5.1 redesign. The subwoofer unfortunately had a relay let go about 5 years later in 2010, but I kept the sats because you have two-way sats with proper padding in the back. It's nice and quiet. You have a little 3-inch woofer for mid-bass, which I set the crossover frequency to 120 Hertz to match the original Pro Media amplifier. There I go again with the videos after supper thing, and then you got a tweeter on top, so it's brighter than those horrible, horrible sats that came with the 660 watt Onkyo home theater in a box that I use these days. Basically what I do is the computer audio goes out digital after being converted to Dolby or DTS, and then the home theater box does all the sound processing. I do a little bit of it with the analog stuff on the system, but most of the sound processing is done by the AV receiver. It is doubtful that I'll even have a sound card in my next computer if the next computer's onboard audio can just convert on the spot to Dolby or DTS and send it to the receiver. But this is loads better, infinitely better than the horrible, and these things are over 10 years old and they're still fine. I haven't ripped any of the foam on them or anything. These things are still perfectly fine, and they go from 120 Hertz right on up. So then, of course, you can send the rest to the subs. Now, proper bass down, I'd say I'm probably missing more directional bass, and I've been very, very tempted to try out some monoprice shelf speakers, but I'm kind of short on desk space for that kind of thing. I'd have to buy speaker stands if I went that route. So, but these are small enough that they can cover all the bases with the sound that I need, and then they just work on it. They just need a subwoofer to complement them, because if they don't have a subwoofer, the mid-bass going down too far below 120 Hertz will bottom out these 3-inch woofers very, very easily. But if you went to the Logitech version of these things, they wouldn't even have real speakers in them. It would have like a cone, a rubberish cone with a phase plug for the tweeter. It's like, oof, yeah. Logitech wanted something as loud as Klipsch, almost as good sounding as Klipsch, for a lot less than Klipsch. And fortunately, this Ultra 5.1 that I bought in 2005 was the only time, and I think I bought them at a holiday sale too. This was the only time I ever paid anywhere close to retail for a Pro Media set. The 4.1s that I finished college with, which were my first experiment with speakers that weren't like the crappy ones that came with my computer, or Altec Lansing or something like that, were actually refurbs from a B-stock scratch and dent sale. So I didn't pay anywhere close to retail for those, and they served me just fine in college, and they still work. It's just that the potentiometer in the volume control unit is completely shot. So, and of course what sucks about those is they have mini plugs on the back, because they originally took mini plugs, whereas this has spring clips. Unfortunately no banana plugs, but maybe I could rig something up because this looks detachable. But that's another discussion for another day. I also still have a monster cable kit from the Klipsch Pro Medias that I originally bought. They originally had mini plugs on the end for 4.1s, but I snipped off the mini plug and tinned the ends with a soldering iron to be able to use them with regular speakers. So that was probably the last time I ever really bought into the whole monster cable nonsense. So I've just been running that stuff straight into the ground. Maybe I should get some proper speaker wire nowadays instead of that overhyped rubbish. But yeah, the Loudness War. It's unfortunately it's the result of the ad populum nonsense floating around out there that louder is always better, and that is most certainly not the case. Basically, you want to listen to what the recording artist wanted you to listen to, not a super processed, way too loud, can't even hear the instruments, no dynamic range whatsoever, iTunes-ified version of what some marketer who wants to sell you digital music thinks you'll find good sounding. As far as other issues that affect sound quality and compression and digital files versus other stuff, that's another discussion for another day. But when Stoudman kind of referenced the whole Loudness War thing in his response to my last discussion on analog sound equipment, I had to talk about this. You probably could doubt whether I was really a multimedia nerd if I didn't talk about the Loudness War at least once. Let's put the grill back on this satellite. Let's go plug it back in before we turn the amplifier back on. And let's have ourselves some fun here. Yay! It even looks like a proper radio speaker. I have been tempted to try a hack job monoprice set, but I don't have the room for full-size bookshelf speakers. I have to grab the measuring tape, especially if I want to bring back screen number 2 when I finish fixing my, well, I'm kind of doing things out of order here, but if I want to bring back screen number 2 when I finish fixing my monitor, yeah, there's not going to be any room for proper bookshelf speakers on here. I'd have to get stands for them. So these still fit. Unfortunately, most replacements that I could get would not. So maybe it's better for me to keep running these into the ground. So, yeah, Loudness War. Now you folks can stop doubting my audiovisual street cred. Bottom line, the Loudness War sucks. Listen to what the recording artist wanted you to listen to. And if you want to play around with limiters and volume levelers and stuff like that, you should do that through your sound equipment, not via somebody selling you a butchered music track that destroys what the original artist was going for. Especially all those classic rock songs that are getting absolutely ruined by this crap. So, thanks for watching, everybody. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by, listen to real music that hasn't been butchered by the Loudness War, and rock on!